Hello everyone, it is Wednesday, it is 4:30 p.m. Central Time, I guess technically 4:31, but here we are, it is office hours. We are here to share a bit of news from the week that went past, together with answering whatever question you might have. So, hey Andrew, how are things?
They're going well. They're going well. I know I say this often, but good Lord, I am happy it is. We're most of the way through the week already. How about you?
All good. Swimmingly well, as they say. Yeah.
Excellent.
And the chat is working today. Beautiful. I have the window with all the chats coming in, all the different streams. So, all right.
I see that too. It's like everyone's helping us test out with all these hellos today. Hey, everyone.
Indeed. Indeed. All right. What have you been up to, sir?
Oh, there's always something in our neck of the woods. So I've got a couple of things that I wanted to share today.
Screen ready?
It is, but I'm just trying to. You can go ahead and share it, but I'm going to pull up one more thing here.
All right.
So I don't think we talked about this last week, but a lot of us do have to deal with Microsoft Entra Connect. Some of you may or may not actually support this in your organization, but I know plenty of folks that are managing Intune and ConfigMgr and things like that do have to support this. And this is just one of two mechanisms that you can use to sync users, groups, devices, and everything between Active Directory and Entra. And so there's a pretty big update recently where the latest version of Entra Connect Sync will actually use modern authentication to log in and configure things. Whereas that was not the case here in the past. So I wanted to pull up and share both of these links this evening, both the version history of Entra Connect that talks about right here, the modern authentication feature. Note that it is in preview, but usually the public previews, I would say test if you're going to use it because it is in public preview, but it is there, as well as the actual documentation that points to how you can use an application and how you can use this with Entra Connect Sync. So thank you to Nathan McNulty for sharing this specific piece of documentation I found. Also came across a post over on System Center Dudes around Intune and BitLocker recovery keys, a very hot topic over the last year, especially, but very important topic to pay attention to in your organization. So you may find some environments where where specific devices' recovery keys are not actually escrowed into the Entra ID object, which is where if you are managing devices in Intune, when you go and look at a BitLocker recovery key, that's actually drawing not from the Intune device object, but the Entra ID device object. So this post here talks about sort of investigating how that can happen, as well as how you can remediate it. So fantastic post that contains a PowerShell script as well to help you remediate. Highly recommend putting this in your toolbox.
It's a very timely post that you stumble across because one of the questions that came in for office hours was the fact that was regarding how to prevent automatic encryption for devices that you wouldn't want it like at that point in time. Organizations found out the hard way that Windows 11 24H2 removed some of the requirements to do that automatic encryption, and they suddenly start to have devices that will encrypt on their own when they didn't want them to. So I'll cover that in a little bit.
Yeah. Oops. That sounds like a big oops.
Yeah, especially if you don't have access or the keys doesn't get escrowed correctly, and then you have an issue with an update or something, and you need that key, and well, you're toast.
Absolutely. All right. And then the last thing that I had here was another website with a collection of scripts from Ugur Cook, who is has been a very, very busy man over the last year. I feel like we're often being able to show some of the stuff from Ugur, but he put together a website, IntuneAutomation.com. There is you can either search the scripts here or browse a collection. So this shows the collection of some of the scripts that he is using to manage devices in his environment. Some nice filtering and things like that. Really a nice looking website with a great collection of scripts. So I think he released this last week. So just another great tool to have, I think, that showcases some of these fantastic operational scripts. So thank you, Ugur, for putting these together. I think that is what I have for this week, sir.
All right. Let me steal the screen a little bit then.
All right.
See, well, first and foremost, we have as I call it, a shiny mini course coming up. I am don't feel too bad about notifying folks about those because they're free to attend for anyone who wants, but I have it down here. It's Andrew and I will be spending an hour and a half on June 17. That's pretty close. But basically sharing our tips and tricks on having your Windows 11 upgrade be as painless as they can. So that's what we'll be doing for an hour and a half there. So if you haven't upgraded all your plans just yet, this could be a good session to join, and the price is, I'll say, just about right for that one.
I'd have to agree.
The only way we could be better if, of course, if you paid someone to show up, but I'm not going to go that far. No. All right. I stumbled across a pretty cool solution because one of the complaints we often hear about the Intune platform, in addition to not being as quick as people would like it to be, is the lack of software metering. And I stumbled across this gentleman who put together poor admin's software metering package, basically leveraging a healthy dose of remediation script together with uploading to, I think it was a OneDrive share he was uploading the information to, because apparently the budget said no to log analytics, which, I mean, it's not many dollars, but it's a few dollars, and sometimes you don't win all the battles. But I just want to highlight this one. I saw this one popping up. It looked quite interesting. Measures the application usage, something that the Intune doesn't do today. So I thought it was pretty cool. And it inspired me to a few other things that I will showcase shortly. But going back to the BitLocker issue, I wanted to bring up that documentation. Basically, Microsoft have their concept of automatic device encryption, and recently they made these changes that you no longer require these things here. And that was a change they did in 24H2. And that means that devices have a tendency now of actually starting their encryption if you don't want them. But there are ways to prevent that. Either you set see where I put that one. Yeah, either you set a registry key on the device, preferably at deployment time before it comes up the first time, or you can set it in the unattend file. There is an unattend file setting for those of you that are using an unattend file to deploy Windows that you can just enable as well. So most folks will put this in a sequence somewhere, but I just wanted to highlight these because they caught at least one company with surprise because they reached out, and luckily they only had a couple of users where it happened for, but it's annoying enough to have that. And also, speaking of annoyance level or things that are annoying, I've been arguing with Excel for a couple of days now. Turn out that one of the Excel updates, and I will show you. So if I create a blank workbook here, I'm signed in, so I have a license, and all that is good. If I try to type in something here and do basically a right click and copy, and then I want to paste it somewhere else, I can't. Paste is gone. Control V, Control C, Control V is broken. So I ended up signing a support case, but I haven't had a good reply yet. But I've stumbled across a few people in the community who have seen the same thing in the latest 25.05 Excel release. What I can do is click here and snatch information here and paste it. But obviously, then I lose formatting and whatnot that I might have, and I might want to select multiple cells and copy and paste. So annoying as heck. If anyone have a good solution for copy and paste being broken in Excel, let me know.
Yeah, please. That's a nasty bug.
That's how. Just think like that should be on the checklist somewhere when testing. Does copy and paste work?
Oh my gosh, one of the most common actions in Excel, I would think.
Yeah, and it's multiple devices too. I
Yeah.
have my Server 2019 here. I have a Windows 10 box. Yeah, annoying, annoying. And another annoying thing, a few times here on the Academy, we discussed the Microsoft Graph module, especially upgrading it. And I've been increasingly improving my script that I've been using for this until I stumbled across another gentleman who was probably even more annoyed than I was. Because Merrill ended up writing a PowerShell module to remove graph correctly. And that one worked beautifully. So you install the uninstall module, and then you can either do it from here or you can do it directly from GitHub, of course. But that was a great module. Worked perfectly.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's such a pain to update that whole package and all of its additional submodules.
Yep, to say the least. All right. But then I go back to what I got excited about earlier when I saw that software metering solution. I started to play around with, all right, what if I need to get data out of Intune and its clients and quickly? I do not have log analytics. I do not have the ability to purchase advanced analytics or anything like those components that at least give me a little bit more. But it turned out that Trevor Jones had a couple of old PowerShell modules to tap into the output of remediation script. So long story short, I wrote a couple of remediation script. I'm very proud of them. Not going to win any awards, but it retrieved some settings from a client. So if I go to my devices here and head over to remediations, I have a script here that retrieves some delivery optimization and network settings. And the way I formatted the script was so that if I go to the device status and check out the pre-remediation detection output, meaning the part that the script returns, I have that information here, comma separated with a colon in between the values. I can fill this up with up to 2 kilobytes of information. So either, and I did this first, you can export this information, you get a CC file, and I just parse the result from it. Or you can use Trevor's PowerShell module to basically ask a graph for this information. In this case, I'm going to show it for all the scripts that I have, and then I'm going to show it for one of the scripts that I have. Sorry, this is one script. This is the one I was showing you. This one here had them all. But long story short, this is just one device. This one will show everything I have. But if I do this one here, so I will get a result again. So here's my script, here's my values in the output. And then I wrote a parsing script that just maxed it out to a spreadsheet. Hence my Excel hinders. So now I have a CSV file with that information. So here is remediation script running that gathers information pretty much on the fly. No cost, no fuss.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I like it.
Very cool.
So obviously you can trigger remediation script also, either individually on a device. You can do that in the preview, or you can just have it run on a schedule every 4 hours. Then you can just tap into the output data. Not sure that this was the intended use of remediation script, but heck, I needed a quick way to snatch some data that was otherwise not available.
Yeah.
And this is it. This
see.
is the result from remediation script, but on my device here.
See, Gary's commenting in here too that he uses that all the time with remediation scripts. Very clever use.
Thank you, thank you.
And
Anyway,
Mike says hacking the remediation scripts.
that will be the next MMS session.
Exactly.
And by the way, I had management approval, by the way. I haven't told you about this, Andrew, yet, but I got management approval to go to MMS in Nashville.
Yes. I'm so happy.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So bummed I missed out the May one, but I'm looking forward to the one in October.
Oh gosh, looks like I need to send a thank you text to management.
Probably should.
Oh, that's great news.
Yep. So that was all I had in terms of news and findings and sadness and happiness at once.
Yeah.
Sadness because of Excel, happiness for remediation output.
Awesome. Great stuff, sir.
Thank you.
You've been busy this week.
Yes, very much.
All right. Well, shall we hop into some questions then?
I'll say so.
All right. We've got a few queued up for us already.
Beautiful.
So, first question here is, excuse me, from Matthew over on YouTube. I need to move my SQL Server install from the C drive to the E drive. I've already moved the reports over to the E drive. Am I able to just uninstall SQL Server, then reinstall on E without affecting ConfigMgr?
So I would not bother moving the actual install because that's just a gig or two of data and it doesn't grow much. I would just make sure to move the different databases over to a different volume. And that is as simple as detaching them, moving them, attaching them again. It is a very simple process. So yeah, technically you can, of course, do a backup and reinstall SQL and then restore and whatnot, but I wouldn't. It's quite common that I see SQL being installed in the SQL program files, and I don't see a problem with that really. The problem I have when I see database being stored on that volume or log files for that matter, because they grow, and eventually you run out of disk space and the server dies. So that will be my answer to that one. Doable, yes. Would I have to do it? No.
All right. Benny's asking, do we recommend the Open Intune baseline by Skip To The Endpoint, or James Robinson? Skip To The Endpoint is his online name. I have a new environment and they seem pretty good. Just wondering if we have used them.
Oh yeah, they're a great starting point if you just want to have something to get going and start to test with. Fantastic for inspiration. If I would take every single baseline and just deploy blindly, no. but they are a good starting point to use.
Yep, agreed. +1 on that.
Yeah. And for those of you who haven't seen them, we have showcased them a few times here on the Academy, but open Intune baseline. This is a beautiful project. Tons of ready-made configurations, well tested. Of course, different categories and areas, and the naming convention almost make me cry every single time. It's beautiful.
Tears of joy, of course.
That one is tears of joy. That is tears of happiness.
Awesome. We'll make sure to add this link this evening.
Again,
yes. Probably the dozenth time.
yeah, something like that.
I don't know if dozenth is a word, but we're gonna go with it. All right. Matthew's asking us, would there be anything that might cause the join domain account to register error 1326? The username or password is incorrect. I always use the verify and test connection to confirm the password and account is correct beforehand.
Well, I have never seen a ConfigMgr sequence not storing the password correctly. Should that be the case, remove the step completely, apply, add a step back in again, apply. I would suspect it's something else that configures that variable, script or something that sets that password as a variable that gets overridden, and then when it tries to join the domain, you get that incorrect. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Because I've never ever seen that test verification thing return true when it's not true.
Yep.
Or just try create a new sequence and see if the problem
Persists.
that's the word I was looking for. Yes, because I have seen sequences being corrupt and weird.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Agreed. All right. Ross is asking us over on YouTube. In ConfigMgr, I'm trying to create a query to identify devices which have never been logged into to rebuild them with a newer version of a build. Do you have any advice or tips on how to build that query? So devices that have never been logged into.
I can't say I have a collecting query like that ready. That would require a little bit of the research, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to think of ways that we might be able to do something like that, but I don't think I have anything in my inventory at the moment either.
Well, Reddit does never disappoint. Well, I'm going to bring up the thread. It's not super accurate, but it's kind of the same topic. The user is logged in. I'm assuming there is some similar information to be found, or is no record being returned at all. Garv suggested a couple of things here, but yeah, maybe that one, some information that could be useful. This one never was resolved, this thread, but the tables there looked valid to me at least.
Mm-hmm.
And Garth is also rarely wrong.
I agree with that. That's for sure. It looks like maybe I found another Reddit post where, wouldn't you know it, Garth is responding. That talks about how you might be able to use power management reports to get that. And the initial question, you could pop over to my screen if you'd like, Johan. I have it up.
I was just about to ask.
I had a feeling. Somebody asking locate systems where no user has signed in for a certain amount of months. So Garth had a suggestion here that that may also be of help.
Beautiful.
A man knows his SQL queries.
Yes. It's basically
Although,
Garth and Jerry are the two people that
yep.
basically, if they say jump, I would jump in terms of queries.
And I'm pretty certain in the post that you shared, both of them had responded. So hopefully these help, at least a little bit of inspiration, hopefully, to get that information.
All right, awesome.
All right. So Matt is asking, why with some of my customers do I see updates being downloaded into the Windows CCM Temp directory instead of the CCM Cache folder?
I don't know.
I've not come across that, at least in a way that I've noticed.
There's like one post in the world with this a gentleman having 81 gig in that folder.
Oh, wow.
Temp files primarily. I have not seen it. I would suspect some issues on that device or antivirus trying to be clever, not succeeding.
All right. Matthew is asking, is there any need to have both apply network settings and join domain or work group steps in a task sequence?
Uh, Hold that thought for a second. I
Yep.
just noticed that Mr. Terrell chimed in here.
Oh,
I'm going to show his reply just because it was timely. Thank you, Mike.
oh yeah, I see that.
Could very well be to Delta downloads. That could be.
Good call. Thank you, sir.
Yep, appreciate that. So the forum post I stumbled across was this one here. I don't approve of that idea, but Delta should not be enabled. So, all right. Good
Were
call.
you? Did you have something that you were sharing, or?
Yes, except I didn't share my screen, did I?
There we go.
Yeah, this one here. So this is basically the only one I got a Google search reply on that folder,
Okay.
filling up.
All right.
All right, back to you, sir. You had a comment there.
Yes, Matthew was asking if in a task sequence there's any need to have both apply network settings and a join domain or work group step.
No, they are they are the same.
Mm.
If I go to a sequence here, Can borrow one of these guys, not that one, but so this one here configures it for joining it to a domain. The way I like it, I have seen folks adding in scripts to do it later in the sequence. I prefer this one here because this one will update the unattend file with the right information and when the machine reboots, which it does shortly after here. When it installs the ConfigMgr agent here, then when they join the main, it's going to happen. So I don't see the need of doing it differently.
Now, you could have multiple join domain steps if you're going to be joining to different OUs or something like that dynamically based on a query.
Yeah, but I've seen folks using this step. I just added it in the wrong location here, but I am try this one. I like this one. I
All
think they're
right.
using the same variables in behind the scenes anyway.
So Gary chimed in as well. One is for WinPE and one for full OS. And then, like you said, one sets the unattend. Yep.
Yeah, so that one is for full Windows. Thank you, Gary. And this one here is for WinPE. So this would actually be the right spot after, because at this point it left WinPE, came back up in Windows, and because this does a reboot here. All right, awesome.
All righty. So let's see here. So we a question here from Jonathan, and then real quick, I'll put Jeff's reply in here as well. So Jonathan's question: any tips on speeding up the Win32 apps version of an M365 apps for enterprise install during Autopilot? And Jeff's reply was, don't do it during the ESP. Not necessarily the answer that you may want, but is good advice.
It is a good advice, but I mean, there are a couple of things you can do if you run it as a Win32 app. And we did some testing with this like 2 years ago, performance testing.
Mhm.
But just making sure that the DO is set to foreground for it. So if we pretend that this application here is Office, it isn't, but on the assignment level, make sure, it's hard to see there, but make sure to flip that Office setup over to foreground. That will cut the installation time or download time down in half, give or take, compared to not having it in foreground.
Mhm.
So that would be a good start, this setting here. The other one would be to leverage local cache servers. So we covered that a couple of times here on the Academy, but if you spin up cache servers, either the one that comes with ConfigMgr or the standalone one that is free to download and use, that is managed through Azure, it will speed up significantly. And this was the only way we were able to deal with large applications, like really large applications. So, yeah.
All right. Well, when it comes to speeding up and getting content to the right place, I defer to you, sir. So thank you for that.
Of course. I mean, the issues we often see is folks are throttling DO when they are throttling too hard.
Mm-hmm.
So that Autopilot gets upset. And it doesn't help that updates are getting bigger and bigger either. But for that particular phase, it's yeah. Avoid big apps if you can.
All right. So let's see here. Neil is over on YouTube, adding computers as domain join. They appear in Entra OK as hybrid join, and then he's adding them to a dynamic group for Intune enrollment, but the computers do not enroll into Intune. If I log in with an administrator account and go to add work school account, you can see the domain join. Connecting using my domain account, but this causes a second computer entry in Entra as Entra registered, then enrolls in Entra. This does not happen every time. Any ideas on what I might be doing wrong? So I think the part that's not clear to me is if you're doing the domain join and then you have a mechanism set up to do the hybrid connection, say Entra Connect Sync, for example, is the Intune enrollment, how that auto enrollment is happening, or is configured to happen, I should say.
Yeah, the idea is that the Entra Connect will sync the device over and, because of the policy, go ahead and enroll the device.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say I have done any manual enrollments on domain joined devices. But it's not uncommon to see multiple devices in Intune for hybrid.
Yeah, in fact, let's see. Um, Joss Lieben had a script specifically to remove duplicate older devices. Or not necessarily just older, but duplicate devices of the device objects of the same device. I'm trying to find it right now. Yeah, I found that it's a little bit older. It doesn't directly answer that question at all, but I'd be happy to post that script at least for this evening.
Yeah, I have found a thread that discussed the problem. I'm bringing it up on the screen here, but basically confirming there are two records showing up in Entra, and what they had to do there for their dynamic queries is they modified it a little bit. So that it would. This was for an Autopilot enrollment, I think, for hybrid. Yeah, perhaps.
All right. Let's see here. Just Just making sure I'm caught up to this point. I think so. Benny is used to use ConfigMgr to deploy apps and updates, and has now moved those workloads over to Intune. When trying to install an app update, Chrome, for example, the installer throws an error that it can't find the source in CCM Cache. If I point the installer to the new MSI, nothing happens. Seems to be stuck. I have to use the MS tool to completely remove the app, and then the installer works.
So MSI, they often keep. I mean, if I go to a client here, let's see what I have running. This one, and I go to Windows Installer. This is where I have a lot of MSIs from different applications, and they just get like a random name assigned. And what I have seen is when you try to do an uninstall or repair of an application, it tries to find it in here, and if it cannot, it fails. So sometimes I had to repair that and basically copy in the right MSI here and give it the name it's looking for, because you can look up that name. But if it's the source is pointing to the cache folder and that cache folder doesn't exist anymore, you might have to update that. So point it to somewhere else.
All right.
See if I can find anything on that. I remember seeing something to update that source. Of course, I can't find it now.
Of course. Always hardest to find something when you need it. Looks like
Friends over at Patch My PC seems to have an older article that explains a little bit about it. So maybe this one. That one looked kind of promising. Explaining how it all belongs together and what you can do to fix it. I haven't used that tool, but I saw a couple of references to it in other posts. This one down here. Not sure if anyone out there has tried it, but this I'll say is a good read.
so. Mike's also suggesting here you can set something in ConfigMgr in on the Programs tab of deployment type. He was trying to find the specifics, it looks like.
Yeah, that is correct. If I go to a C machine, I have a couple of apps.
Windows Source Management, add the product code in there.
Yeah. So if I go to an MSI, if I have one, that was a script installer. That was an MSI. If I go to properties on that one, programs tab is said. So I'm assuming it was this area here that was referred to. I can't say I played around with this one much, but thank you for the info.
Awesome. All right. Just trying to pay attention to time here, and we still got quite a few questions to get through.
All right.
Amir is at the point that they need to retire their last on-prem domain controller in the MDT WDS server that it supports. However, we still rely on a basic vanilla ISO task sequence that must remain for now. Is PSD still a viable option without a DC? If so, are there any instructions or migration path from MDT to PSD that we can follow?
The documentation is pretty straightforward, but either solutions will work happily on a workgroup server. So Windows Deployment Services does not require Active Directory anymore. MDT never had. It's just that you use the the computer name instead of the domain name when you set it up. Some of my servers here that I'm using, like, let's see, not that one obviously, but this one here. This MDT server is just a workgroup machine, and I'm running Windows Deployment Services on it. It's just configured to not be in Active Directory mode. It's configured to be in standalone mode. So both MDT or extended with PSD would fully support that, no problem.
All right.
It's that your build account have to be obviously a local account here.
All right. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So Ross is asking, how can I create collections that contain devices that have received a few different errors, basically, when running a task sequence? When I run a query, it doesn't match what I see in status messages.
I typically just check for a couple of them, but I do have an example here that we're using for upgrades, because they will look for the result of a collection, of a sequence. So if I check this query here, this particular query will add a machine to this collection if that particular deployment, which is a deployment of a sequence, failed. This is the error code for failure. Or if you want to check for success, you can check this one here.
Yep. So that looks to me like probably on the right path there, because Ross was asking about 41, 35, and 70. So
Yeah, there are multiple failures. There is one for success also for its last step or for the step itself. That is 11134, but I rarely use that one. I like the one that signal like is for the sequence itself, not necessarily what the steps in it we're happy or not so happy with. So start there.
All right, perfect. Tim is asking, do we have any recommendations for configuring IPv4 over IPv6 in a task sequence? A few devices are failing domain join step due to having an IPv6 address.
I will do that offline if it's for the domain join action because you want it to be there right away. It's just a registry key that you configure.
Mm.
Can find it. Because it is well documented. This one here. This will be the key to configure, and this will be the value to set to do that, which is the recommended option. As you can see here in the bottom, this is much better than disabling IPv6. I had to do that recently, even for WinPE itself, but that was for another scenario. But it's easier to just go ahead and make that change, disabling IPv6. Or sorry, configuring IPv6 to come second. I wonder if I have a script for it. No, it doesn't look like it. At least not in this sequence. But the trick is fairly simple. We can borrow some ideas from this one. This is a powerful example to make changes in offline registry. So you have a script that basically mounts the hive from where it's applied on the hard drive during WinPE. And then you update that offline registry, and then you reboot, unload and then reboot. So you can borrow this and just change the key.
All righty. Thank you, sir. Matt's got a question here. We've discussed several times on office hours about using the config.office.com page or the M365 Apps Admin Center to update Microsoft 365. However, does this option target all devices, or is there a way to select specific groups? So by default, if you have Cloud Update enabled in M365 Apps Admin Center, that will target all devices. However, if you don't mind switching over to my screen, Johan.
I do not mind at all.
Sort of the opposite. You can't go the route of including specific devices, at least not that I'm aware of. But if you go into, so config.office.com here, under the Cloud Updates section, you can go to Overview and then Tenant Settings. Here you can exclude groups. So by default, it's going to hit all devices, but then you can exclude groups that of either devices or users in Entra in order to exclude them from your update policies. So you can go that way, which I would say these days, at least in my opinion, I prefer anyways. I want most of my users to be on the latest version of Office. But of course, you may find a workflow or a process or an application that are on a handful of devices that won't work. Or you'll find that Excel breaks copy and paste for a month. This is probably the worst month that I could have chosen to say, this is how I do it. But generally, that does not happen. So this is where you would need to go, Matt. All right. So Oleg is asking, how are you guys dealing with moving machines to a different OU during an upgrade to apply a new set of GPOs? Or are you using GPO filtering? Filtering is something that I've not tried yet.
WMI filters on policies, perfectly fine. Moving to an OU different is perfectly fine as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we got a question here. I can script to remove a pending update on Windows 10 by clearing out the software distribution folder, but finding it tricky to do with Windows 11. There's one update I can't clear. Any suggestions?
Nope. Do not. Not from the top of my head.
All right. Amir is asking, with MDT going away, does PSD have a built-in Pixie solution?
No, it does not. We use whatever Pixie solution that is available, either the ones that comes with Windows, still available, not the shiniest one, but it is available, or we recommend the customer to buy someone thing. I'm biased in the matter, but this is the best Pixie solution. Whoops, if I can click. If I go back to my screen here. This is the best Pixie server you'll find. It's not free, but it's great. If you don't have a availability to get this one, the one that comes with Windows will still Pixie boot things. It's just not as good.
All right. So Andrew, different Andrew, is asking. He's just starting to use SCCM at work. What is our recommended way of learning? I'm pretty hands-on, so I prefer labs.
Having a lab is a perfectly good start to learn.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I wouldn't say I've done all my learnings in that, but I've done a lot of work in the labs, and it's been a great learning experience. That's the best learning tool you can get, because you can make mistakes there that is, without consequences.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more. And then in terms of spinning up an environment, you can find our hydration kit over on Deployment Research blog. Microsoft also has a lab kit. And I think there are some other ones that I've come across in the community as well, though I have not used them.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for inspiration, we do have a somewhere.
Might have been on the back to the first page.
There we go. I missed it. Yeah. Was a year since we did this one, but the recording is available. It's an hour and a half on how to set up a lab environment.
Mm-hmm.
Different options that are available, how to pick the right hardware, how to get it going. So, and this one also is priced right. So,
and of course, maybe the last comment here, Johan, Niall's website.
oh yeah, the lab guides are beautiful. Yep. If you go to Windows Noob and head over to the guide section here, you will find hundreds of step-by-step guides for various topics. Some are older, some are newer, but good lord, this is a lot of useful stuff here on Mr. Niall Brady.
Yep. And I love that he's even kept updating them with Intune and Windows 365 guides too. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm not sure he sleeps, but
Awesome. All right. Well, we made it.
we made it. Indeed. All right. Thank you. Whoops, did not mean to. I
I'm
tried
out of here.
to. I was trying to get rid of this screen.
I thought you were trying to get rid of me.
No, sir, who would not? Everyone, thank you so much for joining. Andrew, thanks for being here. And we hope to see you again next Wednesday. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Johan.